In this video, we're going to be going over what are the new best close range weapons inside Warzone. We've had a lot of changes with the Season 6 update and nerfing some shotguns, and a lot of new weapons have been introduced into the game since then as well, from Vanguard weapons and some Season 6 shotguns. So if you enjoy weapon stat breakdowns and weapon comparisons, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers. And click that link in the description down below and subscribe to our second channel. We do post extra content over there as well. And like I said, this video is going to mainly focus on SMGs. Now we're talking about close range SMGs. Now if you want sniper support weapons, we will be making a follow-up video to this one going over the best sniper supports. So the first thing we did is we looked at TTK values on the True Game Data website, and we did do some testing for ourselves as well, because some of the stuff on this is not 100% accurate for what we want to test for anyway. But like I said, what we wanted to check for was just TTKs, because TTK at close range is very important, especially if you're using your SMG below 10 to 15 meters. I think that's probably the most popular range most gunfights are held with an SMG, unless you're using it as sniper support. So we've got pretty much all the more popular SMGs right here. I've also thrown in the AMP for good reason, and I'll show you why in just a moment. We've got Bullfrog, the Modern Warfare AUG with the 5.56 ammo, the Modern Warfare MP5 as well as the Cold War MP5, the MP7, which is getting very popular as well right now. We've got the nail gun. We've also got the OTS and the Tech 9. Now, first of all, the Tech 9 in terms of TTK is actually pretty decent. As you can see, it sits right in between here, but the main issue with the Tech 9 is that it's not suppressed, so we can't really use this weapon as much as people would like. Also, the extremity shots, when I do switch it over as well, is not too great on the Tech 9. As you can see, the TTK jumps up to like 700, and that kind of same thing happens with a lot of the SMGs. As you can see, the nail gun and the Modern Warfare AUG perform the best when it comes to extremity shots, and this is why that 5.56 ammo on that AUG makes this weapon have like a super fast TTK, because it's just so consistent. And then as you can see, we've got the Cold War MP5, we've got the Modern Warfare MP5 in there as well. We've also got the OTS in there as well. So like I said, these two pink weapons right here, which is the nail gun and the AUG, perform the best for extremity shots. So like I said, the Tech 9 was not really something we could use here. Then the Bullfrog has just a really slow TTK, even though it is very accurate as an SMG. It's kind of a better sniper support weapon, so that's why we took that out of the list as well. We were left within the MP7, and similar to the other weapons that we took out, it does have that slower TTK when you land extremity shots, so that is why we took away the MP7 as well. And now we're kind of left with the AUG, the two MP5s, the OTS, the nail gun, and the AMP. Because the nail gun is so consistent over every shot location, I do have to give it an honourable mention. And the reason why we can't put this in this list of best SMGs is because it doesn't really have any attachments. So if you do want a slightly better optic, or you do want anything like that, for example, to make this weapon a little bit better and a little bit more personal, you can't really do that with the nail gun. Even though it does have pretty decent TTKs, it's just overall not the best SMG to use, and the mag size is pretty small too. The other one that is a great honourable mention as well is the AMP, and the reason why the AMP is such a good honourable mention, probably better in some cases to the nail gun, is because it still hangs in terms of that chest shot TTK. And if you do land extremity shots, you will get a slightly slower TTK with this weapon, but the fact that it is a sidearm pistol, you can run it with ghost tempered and restocked, and it still does pretty well in terms of time to kill. Even comparing it to things like the Bullfrog or the Milano, it actually kills faster. So like I said, this is definitely a solid honourable mention as well if you don't want to use an actual SMG as your secondary weapon. So that then left us with these four weapons right here. So we've got the AUG with the 5.56 ammo, the Cold War MP5, the Modern Warfare MP5, and the OTS. And we've done a lot of testing on these guns, because it's not just TTK that's important, and we'll show you all the other stats as well. But what I want to show you first is our mixed shot location TTK, which is what you'll see here in green. You can see the DPS if you want to see that. You can see the shots to kill, which are right here if you land only chest shots, and the TTK if you land only chest shots as well with all of these weapons. And we only focused on the first two damage drop-off points, because anything after that, these guns are not really going to be too viable, especially the way we built them as well, which we'll give builds at the end of this video. But like I said, for a 1.4 KD player at close range, and that's what we want to focus on mainly, With the AUG with the 5.56 ammo, you do get the fastest TTK of all these weapons. On top of that, it is the most consistent weapon because it doesn't matter where you land your shots, you're still going to get this consistent TTK. So it's 487 milliseconds. Now if you do land a headshot, if you're a 1.4 KD player, it's still 487. And if you miss a headshot and you don't land any, it's still 487 at close range. So you still get that consistent TTK. And the same goes for every other SMG now as well at that closer range. Now, it does drop off a little bit, but not as significant as some of the other SMGs, which you will notice. At close range with the Cold War MP5, it's 562 milliseconds, which is definitely not the fastest TTK. Like I said, the AUG is there, but it's more or less the same as the OTS-9. They pretty much have exactly the same TTK, which is tied at second place. And then lastly, we have the Modern Warfare MP5, which actually has the slowest TTK out of the weapons on this list, but is by no means the slowest killing SMG in the game. So like I said, if you're wanting the super fast TTK, that Modern Warfare AUG is definitely the best. If you're wanting something that's kind of in between, but you get some other benefits, which we'll go on to talk about in just a moment, then the Cold War MP5 and the OTS are definitely good options. And the Modern Warfare MP5 is a solid option as well. So the next thing we tested was the kind of handling stats for all four of these guns, and that's just to see kind of where they sit in terms of movement, because I do think that's really important when using an SMG. You want your strafe speeds and your aim walking movement speeds and your reload times all to be super quick, because you're going to be in a lot of close range gunfights. You want to be able to reload fast and then kill the next opponent, or you want to be able to kind of sneak around a corner whilst ADS. There's a lot of important things when it comes to movement on SMG, so we did calculate all of those stats. So we calculated reload times, and that's the full reload time for the weapon. Then we calculated the meta mag size, and obviously you can just get that from the game anyway. The ADS times, because you want to be able to ADS faster than someone else that's using a different weapon. Firing strafe speeds and aim walking movement speed as well. Now the aim walking movement speed was calculated moving forward, and the strafing speeds were calculated moving side to side, so that's how we calculated all of this. So when it comes to reload times, the Modern Warfare MP5 and the OTS are definitely the quickest. The OTS has the fastest reload time, and that's using the fast mags on this gun. The other two, especially the Cold War MP5, has a pretty slow reload time. 3 seconds almost is pretty slow for an SMG, and like I said, this is using the fast mag, so definitely keep that in mind when using the Cold War MP5, and I have noticed this when using this gun. In terms of mag size, it doesn't really matter all too much. The AUG with the 5.56 ammo is definitely probably the best here for damage per mag, because it outputs the fastest TTK. It has a slower fire rate than the other weapons as well, and on top of that, it has a 60 round mag, which is absolutely insane. After that, I would say the Modern Warfare MP5 is the best in terms of damage per mag in second place. Even though it has one of the smallest mags here, it's still really good. The OTS and the Cold War MP5 are kind of tied a little bit. Then we've got ADS times, and the Modern Warfare MP5 as well as the OTS have great ADS times. And this is kind of one of the reasons why a lot of people like to use this Modern Warfare MP5 build, but we did switch it up a little bit. Like I said, we'll show you the build at the end of this video. Then we've got the firing strafe speeds and the aim walking movement speed, and I think this is very important, and the thing that kind of I wanted to find out was which one of the MP5 is actually better here in terms of the firing strafe speeds and the aim walking movement speed. And to be completely honest, there's not much of a difference between the two MP5 weapons, and I kind of noticed that whilst playing. So in my opinion, if you're going to choose an MP5, usually I would say go with the Cold War weapon. You would get better movement. Now you can add on the Tiger Team Spotlight to the Cold War MP5, because that's not what we tested with this build, because it did get nerfed. Now the slowest weapon here is of course that Modern Warfare AUG. Now using that 60 round mag and the fact that the AUG's already a pretty slow weapon to begin with, you can see that the strafing speeds are nowhere near as good as the other weapons, and the aim walking movement speed is nowhere near as good as the other weapons either. Now, the king of movement right now is the OTS, and this is why I think it's going to be a really popular weapon. ADS is pretty balanced, you've got a super quick reload time, it's got the fastest movement in the game, and it also has one of the fastest TTKs in the game, and that is why it's one of the best SMGs in the game. So in terms of the actual builds we tested here, so we've got the Modern Warfare MP5 build, which is what we've built here, and this is for the kind of best hip fire accuracy as well as movement speed, because you don't really want to use that Merc foregrip anymore, because it actually hinders your overall movement speed and ADS times, and competing with the Cold War weapons, it's really hard to make a Modern Warfare gun move just as fast. And like I said, this build keeps up with that Cold War MP5 build, so this is the one I would definitely recommend. So 45 round mag, stipple grip tape, collapsible stock, 5mm laser and the integral suppressor. Then for the AUG, we did a similar thing as well. So we've got the lightweight suppressor here instead of the monolithic, and that just gives you the sound suppression because you still need that. The 5mm laser once again for the better hipfire accuracy, stipple grip tape again, we're using the 60 round 5.56 mags, and then we're using the ultralight hollow for that faster aim walking movement speed. You could actually use the CQB comb as well if you wanted a faster ADS time, but like I said, that movement speed is going to be really important. So moving on into the Cold War weapons now, these are the builds we were using. So Agency Suppressor, Task Force, Raider Stock, Serpent Wrap, and the fast mags, which is the salvo 50 round fast mags in the case for the MP5. I just wanted to keep this build consistent with our OTS build, which is the build right here. So GRU suppressor, Task Force barrel, 40 round VDV fast mags, Serpent Wrap, and Skeletal stock. And this is just kind of for the best strafing speeds possible. Now you can use the Tiger Team Spotlight if you really want to use that. It gives you a slightly faster overall movement speed, but this attachment did get nerfed in the Season 6 update. So here we are in Plunder, and we're going to do a recoil test at 10 meters away from this wall with each of these weapons, just to see what the recoil is going to look like. Now recoil isn't really super important when it comes to close range SMG weapons. It's not really that important because you will be landing your shots because of the kind of distance you're at. So that is the Modern Warfare AUG right there with that 5.56 ammo conversion and the builds that we tested for this video. And then we're going to use the Modern Warfare MP5 and see what the recoil is like on that weapon too. And as you can see, the recoil doesn't change much with the Modern Warfare MP5 if you don't use that Merc 4 grip. So it's still going to be relatively easy to control within that 10 meters distance. And same with that Modern Warfare AUG. You're still going to get a pretty easy to control recoil pattern. It actually has less side to side bounce than the MP5 right here. And we're going to run this exact same test with the MP5 from Cold War. And if we all know, this weapon has a really weird recoil, so it fires straight up, which is relatively easy to manage, and then it kind of stops at a point, which makes it kind of harder to control than some other weapons. Now if you do manage to kill your enemy within this kind of recoil pattern right here before it stops, it's actually relatively easy to control. So you do need to make sure that you kind of fire and then stop firing again. Or if you're going to get some kind of like weird stop or up and down motion when this weapon actually stops because you're trying to control the recoil. So it's something to keep in mind when you're using that gun. And this is why the OTS is also a better weapon, because when you do fire the OTS, much like the other weapons, it's a very consistent recoil pattern, which is pretty much straight upwards as well. So super easy to manage in those close range engagements. And that is why the OTS is definitely a solid weapon, because you control this relatively easy. As you can see right here, there's pretty much no recoil on this gun. Like I said, with this MP5, if I had to rank all these weapons from best to worst, the OTS is definitely the best. It has that TTK that's good enough to compete with other weapons. It also has the best handling and movement speeds, and it also has some of the lowest recoil out of all of these SMGs, and that is why it's very popular right now. I think in second place we've got the Modern Warfare MP5. The movement isn't all that much slower than the Cold War MP5. You do get slightly easier to control recoil. Is definitely a solid option. Then I would say you're going for the Cold War MP5. It has a very similar TTK to the OTS, and on top of that you're also getting the Cold War kind of movement with this gun as well. The only issue with it is that it doesn't have that fast reload. And then in fourth place I would give it to the AUG, and that is just because it does have the best TTK when it comes to close range weapons in the game, so it has to go up fourth place. Everything else on this weapon is not too great. The iron sights are not very good. The handling on this weapon is not very good either, and the recoil, even though it is straight, it isn't very easy to manage like the OTS. So like I said, that's why it has to go up fourth place. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something new, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we try to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers, and click that link in the description down below and subscribe to our second channel. We do post extra content over there, and thank you very much for watching.